The regulator was mounted straight on here to the outlet port, which I was told was not safe. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I did a video a while ago on my external LPG tank that's fitted underneath the vehicle. I thought I'd do another video on that today, as I learned a lot of lessons whilst doing that, and I've got a few recommendations of things that I'd do differently. So yeah, I've just put a video together with my lessons learned. So let's take a look. If you haven't already done so, check out my previous video where I actually show the install of the tank, because this might all make a bit more sense if you've already watched that. So just to recap, I bought a 25 litre underslung LPG tank from a company called Tinley. They supplied the tank and all the valves, the brackets, and a couple of hoses and a regulator that I then had to assemble. Now, my first recommendation is to buy one that is already pre-assembled. Whilst the actual assembly wasn't that complicated, it was just screwing valves into holes, following a set of instructions. I later found out that I didn't actually achieve a proper seal on those valves, and I had a pretty big gas leak. So I then had to pay a professional to reseal all the holes and make sure that it was all working fine. So I just went for Tinley because it was the cheapest tank, and I was just trying to save money. I thought, how hard can it be? But actually I'd spend a little bit more. There's companies like Gasit. I'll put some links down in the description to other companies that sell this, basically the same tank, but it's pre-assembled, so you're not going to have problems with leaks. Yeah, so if we just rewind a bit, I did the installation myself. I then took it to Propex, which is a company that makes and sells heaters, gas heaters, water heaters, gas systems for motorhomes, caravans, boats. Took it to them to do a gas safety inspection, because I wanted to just make sure that I'm not going to, you know, gas myself or blow up whilst cooking a lovely dinner or something like that. So I wanted to make sure it was all safe. On doing the gas safety test, they discovered the leak, and then I just couldn't be bothered to then try and fix it myself, so I ended up paying a couple of £100 for the safety test and then labour, and I needed a new regulator hose to get the system put right, made safe, made it so there wasn't any leaks. So any money I saved in trying to do it myself, I basically lost because I had to pay someone to put right the leak. When you install the tank, you have to set the tank at a specific angle, and if you don't get that, if you don't get the angle correct, there's a risk that the liquid gas, when it's in its liquid phase, could leak out the regulator. I think that's the risk, so that's why the angle is important. I got it slightly wrong. There's a special tool that the guy had when he did the gas safety test, so he had to adjust that. So again, you know, you really need to buy the proper tool. I'd just like drawn on a protractor on a piece of paper, like measured the angle with a compass or something and tried to do it that way. Not very scientific or accurate. So again, probably worth buying a tank that's pre-assembled, and probably if I did it again, I would just get someone else to install the tank. And also the tank from Tinley, if I remember correctly, the regulator was fitted directly onto the outlet port of the tank, which is not considered safe. Again, I think because there's a potential for liquid gas to leak out through the regulator. So I had to pay for a different hose to come up to a regulator that was then higher than the lowest point of the tank. So again, incurred more costs there that I could have avoided if I paid a bit more for a tank in the first place. This is the new pipe that I had to pay for, and the regulator. So essentially when I bought this off Tinley Tech, the regulator was mounted straight on here to the outlet port, which I was told was not safe, so it needs to be higher up. So you can see that obviously there is a lot lower than there, so they had to fit this new hose and a different regulator. The other thing you'll get if you buy a slightly more expensive tank is different brackets. These are just steel brackets that have been painted. You pay a bit more, you'll get stainless steel, which obviously won't corrode, whereas you know you're going to have to repaint these eventually. The other thing to bear in mind is that the level indicator is on the tank, so if you do want to check your level, you're also going to have to climb under the vehicle for this. I opted for quite a basic tank. You can get tanks with electric solenoid valves on them. You notice a bit of a theme here. I was just trying to save money and do it as cheap as I could. I would thoroughly recommend paying a bit more and getting one with a solenoid valve fitted. I also wasn't really sure how that worked and didn't want to overcomplicate it, so again I kind of shied away from that, but it turns out they're actually really simple. It's just an electrically operated valve that sits in the outlet port, and whenever you want to turn the gas on, I'd just flick a switch in here. It would hold the valve open. There's a bit of current draw when you've got the solenoid operating, so you turn it on, cook, you're drawing a bit of current holding that valve open, and when you finish cooking, turn it off, and you'd be shut off at the tank. Because what I have to do at the moment is crawl under the van, take a cover off, unscrew the valve, that then turns my gas on. Then when I want to turn it off again, I've got to again crawl under the van and isolate the gas, which I thought, oh, you know, it's not too bad. But if it's bad weather outside like today, it's not much fun having to crawl on the wet ground. So I'll show you now what I have to do if I want to isolate the gas at the tank. What I've been doing is just leaving it on at the tank and isolating it in here. So I've got isolators in here, but really I think you just want it isolated at the tank just to be super safe. So yeah, I'll show you how I isolate it now. Another thing to consider when opting to buy one of these tanks is that not all of the filler points are the same. Depending on where you are, which country you're in, the different countries have different adapters or fittings that you need in order to actually fill it up at a gas station. So, for example, the one in the UK is different to the one that they have in France. So I took this snowboarding in France over New Year's and then couldn't fill up my LPG because I didn't realise that there'll be different attachments that you need to fill up. You can buy kits, and I'll put a link to one in the description as well for the most common ones. But again, I think there's a kit with 3 different ones for most of Europe, but then like Portugal has a different one to the one in France or Spain or whatever. So it is a bit of a faff, and you do need to get the make sure you've got a good set of adapters so that if you're going touring around Europe, you can fill up wherever you are. Also, another lesson that I learnt was about PTFE tape. That is only for low pressure fittings, so that is anything after the regulator. So there's no point fitting it to anything on the tank or any fittings on the filler side or before the gas has come through the regulator and then to your output pipe. And also, just to reiterate, if you're using copper olives, you don't need PTFE tape on the copper olive fittings. So just to summarise, if I did another van, which I probably will do at some point, but that's another story. So if I did this van again, I would still use a underslung LPG tank because it saves space in the van, and it means you don't have to worry about creating or buying a airtight gas locker. However, I would pay a bit more for the tank so that the valves are already installed. I would buy one with a solenoid installed so I don't have to crawl around on the floor to isolate the gas. I would probably pay someone to install it as well. The whole installation was a ball ache. I don't have a set of ramps, so it's one of those jobs where you're crawling around on the floor, there's not much space, and it is just a pain in the ass to do, and it's hard work. And the likelihood is that you're going to want to take it to someone once you've installed it to have the gas system checked, to make sure that it's all safe. So if you're going to bother doing that, you might as well pay an extra 100 quid. I think the guy quoted me about £50 an hour, and it's a couple of hours work for them to put the van up on their ramps, and they will install the system for you. So in my opinion, that's money well spent. So that is what I would do if I did it all over again. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found this video useful. If you're new to my channel, then make sure you hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Yeah, so thanks for watching. See you later. Cheers.